Welcome to Beer and Baseball, a Myrtle Beach Pelicans production. I am your host, Adam Dellinger. But before we get to today's pod, here are a few housekeeping notes. First off, this is a new podcast, so the more you share, the more listeners we obtain. Where can you listen, you might ask? On the iHeart Podcast Network and also on the Myrtle Beach Pelicans YouTube channel. Listen, subscribe, review, 5 stars would be great, and share. That's all we ask. Now, let's go. Welcome to Beer and Baseball. I'm the Silver Fox, Adam Dellinger. I'm your host for the day. Remember to like and subscribe to this podcast. Hit the like button, ring the bell, whatever it is you got to do. Tell us we're worth 5 stars because I believe that to be the case. This is installment number, what are we at, 5 or 6? I can't remember right now. That's neither here nor there. We like to start the podcast by going around the room and introducing everybody. Now, we have a returning guest today, but we have somebody brand new as well, and it's my buddy JC. JC, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Hey, Adam. I'm from Northeast Ohio originally, near the Youngstown area in between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Cleveland fan by heart. Took a lot of crap for that. I'm married, beautiful wife, 2 kids that when I'm not at the ballpark, that's what takes up my time and what I enjoy being as a dad. So not a whole lot interesting. I'm a groundskeeper. Dirt and grass is what I do, and other than that, I'm a dad.
And then, and I'm going to come back to you because you've got a really storied past too. I don't know how much we're actually even going to talk about your job today, JC, because you've got a whole bunch of really interesting stuff going on in your life, and I want to cover that. But my buddy, Ryan Moore, general manager for the Beach Pelicans, is joining us for the second time, third time if you count his cameo appearance last week. Ryan, what's up, man?
What's up, Adam? Things are good. How are you?
You know, I'm living the dream. I don't have a bar in my office, but I'm doing the best that I can nonetheless.
It's good to have goals.
Yes, it is. Something to strive to. As a matter of fact, I have one of those vision boards, and I just got Kristen to take a picture of your bar, and it's actually the centerpiece on my vision board right now. JC, if I could come back to you real quick. You started with the Pelicans at a really, really weird time, especially for somebody that's in charge of keeping up with the baseball field. Your first order of business didn't have anything at all to do with baseball. It was actually having to deal with a concert. I thought you might want to talk a little bit about that as far as your initial experience being a member of the Myrtle Beach Pelicans staff.
It was very interesting. You know, it's nothing that experience is the only thing that can prepare you for that. And I had none when it comes to a concert. So I was here maybe 2 to 3 weeks when that concert happened. So I was still trying to get a lay of the land as far as what I had equipment-wise and what was going on with the facility, and then trying to prepare for that on top. So it was a challenge. But the cool thing about my industry is you can lean on other people. And everybody is really open to sharing experience and suggestions. So I leaned on a lot of people that have put on lots of concerts before, and they kind of helped point me in the right direction, and that made me have a little bit of maybe overconfidence with it, but sometimes that's what you need is a false sense of confidence, and we worked through it. We had fun, and I mean, I guess if you're going to get your feet wet, you might as well jump in head first and go with it.
The concert that JC is talking about is the Hurricane Florence benefit relief concert that the Myrtle Beach Pelicans allowed their facility to be used for here in Myrtle Beach. Ryan, how did that concert come about? Because I just sort of showed up at the thing and came to the meetings, and you had all the, you know, the back end information and intel there. We had some promotional folks on from around minor league baseball last week talking about various outreach programs, and this is one that you helped spearhead. I thought you might want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to our organizational philosophy. This was even back when I first started here in 2008. We always start with yes, and then we work our way back from there. And Mayor Brenda called, and she said, "Hey, we're looking at doing a concert with the CCMF folks. Can we use the ballpark?" And we said yes. And you know, we sprinted for what was it, about 3-4 weeks, and put on a full-fledged concert. And you know, to JC's credit, he handled it like a pro, because that is definitely a curveball that you don't see coming as you're trying to plan out your off season, get the field ready for April. But that was, continuing on with, things that are going on today. We want to be there, we want to help out, and that's the commitment that we get from, from everyone in the organization. And it's a lot easier for JC to say, hey, no, I don't want to do these events that ruins the field, but he knows our role in the community, and he's a supporter of it.
Well, with that said, do you think that JC actually did a great job, or do you think that he was playing the part of somebody that may have been doing a great job? I don't know if anybody knows this, but my notes in front of me are telling me that we've got a SAG card member on the podcast today. JC, thought you might want to talk a little bit about your experience with the Screen Actors Guild, if you will.
So I'm the type of person that I like to learn about things. I like to learn as much as I can about anything I can. So movies and TV was always something that interests me. Like, how the hell does this get made? So it started out, there was an extra call for, might have been Batman, The Dark Knight, and it was in Pittsburgh, and got my hands in that just a little tiny bit, and saw all the science that goes behind, making films. And it was fascinating as can be. And, once I got that little bit of experience, I wanted more. So my next step was, it was a show for Fox that it's now on Netflix. It never got picked up when I was on it. And that's how I got into SAG. And, getting your card is a tough process. And, so it was a really big step to get that. And it allowed me to open up some more doors. And from there, I went to a film called Alex Cross, which you can't really tell it's me, but I get blown up by a rocket launcher. It was pretty cool.
Rad. Mm-hmm.
Well, yep, I land on a police car and that sort of stuff. The cool thing with that story, I don't know if it's really cool, but we were Detroit police officers in Cleveland, and so this scene, they've got this helicopter flying really low down the street right before this rocket blows up, and the helicopter actually clips the light poles, and we're all kind of right underneath this helicopter. And it was a coming to Jesus moment. Like, everybody's running, and like, holy hell, this is how I'm going to go out, as a helicopter on a movie set. But that was a trip. And then my two biggest claims to fame are close calls, I guess. And it was with one film called Kings of Summer, and another TV show called The Outsiders. It was on WGN. And I was both close calls on that probably would have completely altered my career path. And I likely wouldn't be here today. So everything works out for a reason, I guess. With The Outsiders, it was a series recurring role, and it was a detective type character. And the cool thing about it is I was up against Ryan Hurst. So if you know who that is, he's been in Game of Thrones. Just a massive human being, like a professional wrestler kind of size human being. So my role, I'm kind of talking to him and being aggressive and trying to intimidate this giant of a man, and it's just kind of an oxymoron. So I'm not a small person by any means, but trying to intimidate somebody that could obviously crush me is pretty interesting.
So you're a thespian.
I wouldn't go that far. I'm not trained. I'm not talented by any means. But like I said, it was something that I was curious about, and curiosity led to an enjoyment. And, that's something that I'm going to keep in my back pocket, pay my yearly dues of $99. And, that would be a really nice retirement gig.
Okay, this is going to lead me down a really weird path right now, because I think that it's finally time on this particular podcast to go around the room and really get kind of deep here with the greatest baseball movies of all time. Is everybody on board to have that conversation right now?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to come right out of the gate and say that the movie for me, the greatest baseball movie, not that anybody cares what my opinion is. You guys, of course, involved with the game, but I think it's Field of Dreams. I think Field of Dreams has, it's got overtones and an actual in-depth story that work outside the realm of baseball. It has Darth Vader saying baseball repeatedly in the movie, which gives it, a big-time boost there as well. Shoeless Joe Jackson is depicted in the film. It's also Ray Liotta, which this is like on the heels of Goodfellas. So we have a gangster playing Shoeless Joe Jackson, not to mention the fact that Burt Lancaster is also in the movie. And the scene where he steps over the rocks knowing that he can never go back and pulls the hot dog out of the little girl's mouth may be the best scene in the actual movie. But I'll let you guys respond to that.
For me, it's Bull Durham. Bull Durham is the baseball movie, especially being in minor league baseball. It's the one to go with.
Yeah, that's my go-to, 100%. I think it is from kind of working in baseball and kind of seeing the behind the scenes and seeing how far the game has changed, but really hasn't changed all that much at the same time. It's just the sophistication level have enhanced. So Kristen's saying, tell the Durham Bulls connection. We are the Durham Bulls. Do you know that, Adam?
Yes.
I think we've talked about that. When baseball expanded and Tampa Bay became, at the time, the Devil Rays, they were looking for new affiliates. Durham won that process, and that moved the Durham Bulls to Myrtle Beach, and we rebranded as the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, and they took on the Durham Bulls moniker.
So let's throw this out there then. Different opinions. Bull Durham, of course, a fantastic movie. And then we all can agree on Kevin Costner has to be in the movie, or else it's just not really a baseball movie, except for Major League and Major League 2, Black Hammer. But with that said, let's go sports movies. Greatest sports movie of all time. Ryan?
I don't know if it's a sports movie. It's cliche. I'm a big sucker for Rudy. It's not really a great sports movie. Miracle might be one of my top ones. Mighty Ducks growing up was awesome. I could watch that a million times. If it was a movie about sports, I typically liked it. Miracle would probably be number one.
JC?
For me, it's probably The Sandlot. That's what I loved growing up, and now getting to watch it with my kids and kind of pass it on. It's my favorite.
I can say the only gripe I have with Sandlot, and I saw it in theater twice, so it's one of those for me. My old man carried me a couple of times to see Sandlot, but watching the movie as an adult, no way Benny the Jet had the talent to play in the Pigs. There's no way that dude was a Dodger. Like there's no way. Like he looks kind of awkward. He's right-handed, but when he swings the bat, he steps towards third base and doesn't step towards the pitcher. He's never making contact with that style. It's just not going to happen. Do we count Rocky as a sports movie?
Oh, yeah.
And I think for me, it's probably Rocky. I actually talked about this on the morning show I do here in town yesterday. Rocky 2 for me. Like, I just like the drive to be a champion or whatever. Like, so for me, Rocky 2 is where it's at. I do want to move on and talk about some real sports stuff. Ryan, I was hoping that maybe you could comment on this. By the time you're hearing this, this news will be slightly old, but it is May 12th right now. This is a Tuesday. And big news out of baseball really late yesterday, I guess, that they're looking at a midseason start maybe in July. How much of that trickles down to you guys in the minors, and what are you guys talking about right now?
It's not really connected or directly connected. Everything has been said, though, that we won't start looking at making plans for the minor league season until we identify what we're going to do with the major league season. And yeah, yesterday I think the owners agreed to a proposal to present to the Players Association today. And I think it's anybody's guess at this point where that shakes out. Let's assume that both parties come to an agreement and there are no external factors that prevent them from moving forward with their plan. It's really completely separate than the minor league operation. They're talking about playing in front of no fans. They have media rights. They have other revenue streams where playing games makes sense. That model in the minors it's actually worse than not playing games at all, because we would incur the expenses of hosting the games without having any revenue streams. We don't have any meaningful media rights to be able to broadcast our games and recoup any costs. So you're really looking at, on the minor league side, of is there an opportunity to be able to open up safely with fans and host games? And I don't think that as of May 12th, there hasn't been a decision made on that or any plans accordingly. So we're still in a holding pattern because we need fans in the stands to make the games work.
So JC, I guess, as a follow-up, like in your particular situation with what you do for a living, how much fluidity do you need? And maybe you could speak from some know-how with what you do to folks on the ground staff in the major leagues as well. How much fluidity and how much time do you need before you can get a baseball field ready to be played on every single day?
At this point of the year, we're pretty close at any given time. And I'm no doubt the major leagues are the same way, that when they say go, we're going to be pretty close to being ready to go. You know, the grass never stops growing, so we're constantly tending to that. Our dirt surfaces are with no ball being played, it's a little bit of a different maintenance process to them, but they're still really close to being ready at any given time. So if they called and said, hey, we're going to play, Pelicans games next week, we'd be ready by next week.
And here's another question too, because I've never had an opportunity to talk to anybody that does your specific job. How much input do you have as far as, and this is really nerdy baseball stuff, I guess, but how much input do you have on whether there is a granular field turf or the type of grass that you're going to use? And how much of a difference does that really make? And do you get input from players at all or team personnel regarding the conditions of the field, just like day-to-day type stuff?
Sure, yeah. As far as the type of grass or anything at the facility, that's really directed by your team. So, with us, it would kind of come from the upper, from our ownership to Ryan and that sort of thing. So whatever they dictate is really what we go with. We've had 419 Bermuda grass basically from the get-go in Myrtle Beach. So I'm thankful for that. It's tried and true type of grass. But as far as input, I'm talking to our coaching staff, our players, visiting coaching staff, and some of their players on a daily basis. Their feedback is crucial to what I do. So it's something that sometimes they offer up willingly. Sometimes you got to kind of poke the bear a little bit and say, hey, what are you happy with? What are you not happy with? And give me an opportunity to fix it for you. Because my role is customer service in a nutshell. And our players, our visiting teams are my customers. So I want to make sure that our coaching staff, our players, the roving instructors that come through with the Cubs, that they're all pleased with the surface and comfortable enough to come to me and say, hey, we'd like to see this changed. And then we can focus our attention on getting it just the way they want and need it.
I've always assumed that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the weirdest people regarding, as far as players are concerned, regarding the way that the grounds are kept up would be pitchers and things that have to do with the bump and how they, come off the mound and how it falls off and tapers and things of that nature. Is that pretty accurate?
It's really accurate. A lot of what I do is science-based, but it's also art-based as well. So the mound is a work of art, if you want to think of it that way, that there's too much moisture in clay, there's too little moisture in clay, and then there's the right amount. So finding that right amount that your pitchers like that gives them the good solid footing, lets their cleats penetrate in, but still come out without chunking that clay out. It's an art form. And without that constant communication, how did it play today? Do you need it firmer? Do you need it softer? Each pitcher is a little bit different in what they like as well. So that communication with everybody is what really gets you to the point of close to perfection.
What's the weirdest request you've ever gotten from a player or concern?
This could be dangerous.
To be honest, I haven't really had any weird requests. This past season was more shocked comments than requests. I had a lot of guys that were shocked that it wasn't an all new turf surface. They didn't believe me that it was the same grass that some of them had played on last year. Some of them didn't believe it was the same dirt. It was one of those things that's satisfying as a groundskeeper, that changes that you've made are really actually noticed. So it gives a little fuel to the fire. But as far as weird requests, I really haven't had any, amazingly.
I guess the weird, I should go to Ryan for the weird, because JC, you and Ryan interact on a pretty regular basis too, and there is a rumor or some intel that I'm getting about an email floating around regarding chicken hit.
Chicken shit.
Chicken shit.
See, what they've done is they've actually censored it out on my end. I guess they were thinking I was doing this on the morning show and had to watch out for FCC violations. What is this email regarding chicken shit?
So JC's maintaining the field, and our standard operating procedure is if he puts something on the field that's harmful to animals or people, he'll send out a staff-wide email and say, hey, heads up, we put some fertilizer down or some product down and not to go on it. Most of us are working remotely. A couple of us are here in the ballpark, and so JC sent out a very politely worded email letting us know that if we were planning on using the field, not to, because he put on a nice layer of chicken shit. What that does for the field, I don't know. I'd have to defer to JC on why we're putting chicken shit on the field. But
so
where do you buy that? Real quick, JC, where do you buy that? Is that chicken shit marked out in Ainer, or where does that come from?
It comes from one of my vendors. It's half chicken shit and half our basic fertilizer. So I'm an old school grass guy. So I feed the soil to grow the grass. So more carbon that I can put into the soil feeds all the microbiology in there.
Oh, Ryan, do you golf?
I do.
Do you and JC golf together?
JC, I've invited JC to golf multiple times, and he's too busy. JC is a scratch golfer or close to it, so I don't think he wants to mess around with the hackers that we have around here.
Oh, let me jump in before JC offers a retort, because I too have a best friend that I grew up with who played golf at Catawba College back in North Carolina. His name's Seth. And Seth won't play golf with me either. And I think it's for the same exact reason. When I play golf with Seth, he does this deal where, he'll hit his drive 315 into the middle of the fairway, or he'll lay up for some egregious reason because he's actually playing the game the right way. Like if I get up to the tee, I'm pulling the driver out. Like I'm not taking a soft 2-iron to lay up or whatever. It doesn't make sense to me. And Seth will drop out 3 balls and pull out a rangefinder and play to different, different hole positions and stuff. And I'm like, well, this is stupid. I'm just trying to get it onto the green. JC, will you not play golf with Ryan because he is a hack?
Absolutely nothing to do with that. It's more time with me. At this time of the year, this is strange for me to have time. Usually I'm at the field 14, 15, 16 hours a day, trying to get it up to the standard I hold myself to. So it's nothing about, anybody's ability level. It's more time with me. But yeah, your buddy Seth, golf's when you start playing golf well, it's a game of chess, man. It's not a game of checkers.
I think for Ryan, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I think for Ryan and myself, for certain. It's not checkers, it's Connect Four. You know, it's the most basic, primitive version of the sport.
Yeah.
The reason I brought that question up too is because JC, you were actually on the Hooters tour, and I got these notes in front of me. You got a really interesting background with all this, you know, just like eccentric sort of stuff that you're really good at and that you're into. How long were you trying to play pro golf, man?
A couple years. I couldn't putt. You know, I could shoot 2 under with 38 putts. So I was a bad putter. If I had a good flat stick, then it might be a different story. But some experiences I'll never forget. It was a blast.
How much money did you spend on various Scotty Camerons until you figured out that it wasn't the putter and that you couldn't actually putt?
Not enough, probably, and too much at the same time. Yeah, so it was a little of both.
Yeah, and by the way, too, if you're listening to the Beer and Baseball podcast right now and you think I'm being really rough on JC right now and ripping him a little bit, you obviously don't know how bad I actually suck at golf. And so there is that part of it also. It says you went to college in North Carolina. Where'd you go, man?
Methodist University. It's in Fayetteville.
Yes, sir. I'm from Winston-Salem. I know Methodist very well. Down east, we like to call that. And it says also here, too, you're a Cleveland Browns fan. Can we talk about football? You guys want to talk about football?
If you want to get me depressed, we can talk about football.
Okay, again, too, I'll come back to me for a minute. I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, so I don't really know.
Okay.
I mean, we're working with about the same timeline here, at least over the course of the last 25 years. Were you amped about the Browns last year? And don't lie and retroactively say that you thought they wouldn't be good.
Oh, I was absolutely amped for the first time in a long time. And I'm still amped. You know, maybe, the Cleveland sports motto is there's always next year. So we try to stay a little bit positive and say, hey, next year's our year. So I'll beat that to death that hey, it's our year, even though deep down I know we're gonna end up screwing it up somehow.
Ryan, are you a Pats fan?
I'm a Panthers fan.
Oh, wait a minute. Have we talked about this before? Why is that?
Went to school in North Carolina at Elon, close by to your hometown, and a buddy of mine had season tickets, and we would go down to Charlotte every so often. And I was back in the early 2000s, and they made it to the Super Bowl in 2003. So that was, I'd been my junior year of college. So I had been following them for 3 years, and that run really is what hooked me. And we've been back once and lost again as well. So I don't have the long history of losing like your two-story franchises, but we don't have a history of winning in ours either.
Let me tell you how depressing it is to be a Dolphins fan. I read this story. I don't know if you guys have seen this floating around the internet this week, but Tua has the #1 selling jersey in both home and away colors of every player in the NFL right now. That's how you know you're depleted as a franchise when you draft a first-round quarterback and the entire fan base has to have the jersey because there's nothing else to be excited about. We'll just take the clothes. Yeah!
But to talk about your Dolphins, my little hometown in Ohio, Lisbon, Ohio, maybe 2,000 residents. A small little town in the middle of nowhere, but it's the hometown of Larry Zonka. So I've known Larry since I was little, and the man has the biggest, strongest hands that I have ever shook in my life. Just a massive human being. So that man, in his prime, putting his head down, barreling over you would be enough to put me in the hospital.
Wait a minute. You know Larry Zonka?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
How old are you, JC?
I am 34.
So when did you meet Larry Zonka for the first time?
Oh, probably 5, 6, 7 years old.
So you knew Larry Zonka maybe is not even the all-time great Hall of Fame Miami Dolphin, but maybe Larry Zonka, the host of American Gladiators.
It was probably after American Gladiators, but when he had his fishing show and all that stuff, sure.
Let's do this game. Most famous person you've ever met that wasn't a baseball player. Larry Zonka ranks pretty high on that list right now. Ryan, can you top Larry Zonka?
No. I don't know. You go for you, Adam. Let me try to think on who
I can top Larry, but not in a good
Top
way.
Larry. Top Larry.
Tyler Perry.
Oh!
How do you know
What?
Tyler Perry?
From a film set.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Not as nice in person as he seems.
Oh, that's a fire take you just dropped, bro.
Yep.
Post-production.
You just said that Medea's a kid on this podcast. Unbelievable.
We'll leave it at that.
This could be the break, Adam. This is how this one's going to get big time.
That's what I'm thinking. If anybody's listening right now on the production end of this thing, can this podcast just be titled Beer and Baseball, Medea's a Kid? Download now. Yeah, all I have is country singers, and like, who cares? Like, hey guys, met Reba McEntire one time. Like, like, who cares?
That's what it's like. We get those kind of in and outs, working at venues, But like you said, who cares? It's not like, you remember Adam? They're like, who?
Well, see, but my thing is with you guys, though, it's a little bit different because I would geek out. Like, you guys get to meet a lot of famous people that aren't famous yet as far as baseball's concerned, which is really cool because, like, you just never know who's going to be baseball's the weirdest sport, I think, in that regard. Like, basketball's a little more focused. Like, a five-star guy goes to a blue-chip school and then gets drafted, and you kind of know what you're working with, and you can kind of see that in football too. But with baseball, I mean, I know Ryan, I've talked to Ryan about this a lot, but I got Baseball America sent to my house as a kid. I got the magazine and I read it all the time. And for every Mike Trout, there's 45,000 Todd Van Poppels that you just, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just don't know who's actually going to make it. But I guess I would geek out over the rehab stints for you guys. Like, you just never know who's going to roll through the ballpark on a given Thursday night or whatever. Let's talk about that for a minute, Ryan. Who's the best player you ever saw on a rehab stint?
We had Zobrist here last year.
Yeah.
We've had Glavin back in the day. Trying to think of all of them. I think the key to it is just, and JC will attest to this too, is they're here to work. They want to spend as least amount of time here as possible, and that's not an insult to us. That just means that they want to get back to feeling healthy and back there. So our role in that is really just to kind of facilitate whatever they need and make their stay here as quick as possible. The great thing about when the guys come down is they take it as an opportunity to mentor the younger players that are here, and you really see a lot of the good guys go out of their way, and the vast majority of them are good guys, and they're going to talk to a player, hey, take this approach, try this, try that. They typically always pick up a post-game spread for the entire team. Outback is always a popular one. It's always some steak or chicken or baked potato. But it's cool, and it's cool for our fans because there's a lot of people in our community that don't have the opportunity to go watch a big league game in person. So for somebody to come in and our fans get to see an idol or someone that they get to see on TV, and it really connects what we're doing here on a daily basis to what the ultimate goal of playing in the major league are. And I think that's more of the takeaway from it. I think, on your end, you probably get a little bit jaded with the, meeting artist after artist, and
right.
You understand that, they're just people doing their jobs, and that's kind of the same way it is around here with the players, and even some of your front office executives that are pseudo celebrities in their own right.
Well, I told this story on a prior pod that we had done about seeing Kurt Schilling do a rehab stint. This is between World Series for the Red Sox. So what was that, 04 and 07? So this would have been, like post Bloody Sock, but I guess pre-07. So sometime in there I saw Schilling do a rehab stint with the Charlotte Knights. And they were still playing in Fort Mill at the time. And that was one of the coolest baseball experiences that I've ever had. I went to the Yankee Stadium last year for a weekend series against the now disgraced Astros. But I had really great seats at Yankee Stadium, like field level, first base side. I mean, it was fantastic. And it still didn't rival that experience when I was in Charlotte and saw Kurt Schilling playing minor league baseball. I mean, it was just a whole different animal. And it was really odd too, because there was sort of like two things happening with the guys on the actual roster. So they're facing Kurt Schilling, and they want to hit Kurt Schilling. I mean, they want to get a hit off of Kurt Schilling, and they want to look really good. But you can tell in the batter's box that they're also really enamored by the fact that Kurt Schilling's throwing them a baseball. And so their competitive edge is, like, off the charts, right? Like, they want to be the best player on the field at the given time, but they're having to fight back the fact that, oh, my gosh, Kurt Schilling's out there pitching to me, and you could see that. And that was really cool, and you can really only experience that in minor league baseball.
Yeah, spring training is a really good way to see it too. Some of these parks, some of these newer parks, are getting to be closer to like Major League Baseball style stadiums. But if you go down to Florida and you see some of these older parks that are smaller and you're right on top of it, you do kind of get that minor league feel with the big leagues. But you're right. Outside of a rehab, it's very rare. Spring training baseball, I think, is one of the best kind of times of the year. And it gets you ready. You have the nice weather coming. So I encourage, if you've never been, take a week and go hit up a few parks. It's awesome. And you drink beer at 11 a.m. every day.
Have you ever been to Arizona?
I have.
Yeah, and watch Cactus League too.
Yeah. I worked in the Florida State League, so I'm more familiar with the Grapefruit League. But I went out to the Cubs complex a couple times. But that's actually the only complex I've been to, the Cubs one.
I actually knew that. We've talked about that before. I want to ask, we're getting ready to wrap, and I kind of like to wrap these podcasts in the same sort of manner. But I did have a question that I thought JC could address right now, and it's a problem that I've had and a question that I've had since I played baseball as a kid. When you are working at the stadium, what kind of shoes do you wear, JC?
It depends on the day. This time of the year, when we get near 80 degrees and I'm mowing, I won't wear any shoes. Try to get rid of that Groundskeeper sock tan, my permanent socks. Other than that, it's tennis shoes, man. Just something comfortable, something that doesn't have too much tread that the clay and everything will stick in and I'll drag everywhere. But, as much as I'm on my feet, as much as I'm moving, it's just being comfortable.
The reason that I asked that question is because when I watch a big league game on television, and let's say we've got to roll the tarp out, the rain clouds are coming in, we're going to have to postpone the game. There's 48 dudes out there, and they're all wearing Mizuno turf trainers, like they may have to pinch run in the bottom of the seventh. I have always thought that was the oddest move, like when the coach comes out to argue and he's got spikes on, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're not coming in as a late game defensive substitute. I just didn't know if you were wearing the turf trainer.
It's all about money. Yep, it's definitely sponsorship driven in that regard.
Well, you guys just rained on my parade that the coach was really just trying to relive his glory days as a player from the late 70s.
If you ask the coaches if they could wear something besides a uniform, I think you'd see about 90% say, get me out of this uniform.
Hey, do those guys get fitted? Like, is there a tailor process, Ryan? Like, do they have to come out and measure the coaches?
We have a ton of different options, but every once in a while you'll get a behemoth of a man or a really small dude that you'll have to make some alterations on. But typically we'll have everything in stock. Some guys have their preference on what style pants that they want. Our manager this past year, he liked the pants that he got at spring training, so he brought those with him, and we had to sew on the ribbon onto those. But not all managers are divas like Steve was. So
hey,
put that out there.
This is I can't wrap the pod yet because I have to ask you this question. To me, the best baseball pant of all time was early 2000s. And I think that Manny Ramirez ushered this in, where you were just going to order the pants like 8 sizes bigger than what you actually wore, and they just sort of drape on the ground over your shoes. I always just thought that it looked really cool because it's like they're out there in, like, wind pants or something. And then there were guys that played in the same period that wouldn't get behind it. Like Derek Jeter, I always thought it was odd, was wearing like the standard issue Little League pants with the cuff like right above the shoe top. What is the end pant right now?
Yeah, that's probably it still. is the long pant. I've always been a fan of the high sock, not necessarily stirrups, but not necessarily opposed to stirrups. But I like the baseball uniform worn with a high sock.
That's very Brandon Inge of you, and I could see you certainly rocking that look also. One last question before we roll. I know everybody wants to go drink beer and do additional useless Zoom calls, but before we go, who is everybody's favorite social follow right now? It does not have to pertain to baseball. It can be anything. I just like hearing what people are into and maybe finding a good follow myself. Way to kill time now that we're all stuck inside. JC, I'll start with you.
Mine would probably be Stephen Lord with the Cincinnati Reds. He's their head groundskeeper. I think his on Twitter is Turf Spartan Lord. But he shares a lot about their daily process in Cincinnati. And he's one of those guys, like I said earlier, that I can pick up the phone and call, if I have any questions or any issues. That he's one that likes to share, so he shares their daily process often, and it's a pretty good glimpse into my world of the industry.
Well, I will tell you this. I know nothing about groundskeeping whatsoever, but anybody called Turf Spartan Lord, I'm all in on that, like all day. That dude's getting a follow from me just based off the handle. Ryan, who you following right now, man?
JJ Cooper from Baseball America. He's a must follow right now. He's kind of all over the PBA negotiations, the impact of COVID, and how it's all impacting minor league baseball. So he's definitely got an alert follow from me. So anything that he puts out, I'm trying to see as quick as it comes.
Well, as always, man, I appreciate just being able to do this podcast. JC, I'd like to have you back, man. I just feel like
anytime.
Dude, you're a glacier, and we made like Italian ice out of you with a baby spoon. I think there's just a whole lot more there. And Ryan, honestly, man, I wish you do every podcast. It's always a pleasure. This has been Beer and Baseball. Find us on the iHeart app, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe, and give us 5 stars because JC and Ryan are both awesome. We'll be back. Thank you.
For more Beer and Baseball, subscribe to our podcast and the Myrtle Beach Pelicans YouTube channel. You can also follow the Myrtle Beach Pelicans on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next time, cheers.